Welcome to Secular Sessions, the ultimate destination for authentic conversations and stimulating debates. I'm your host, Raj. My mission is simple: to promote critical thinking and ignite meaningful conversations that inspire curiosity and open-mindedness. Join me on this incredible journey as we navigate through the topics such as science, philosophy, ethics, and the wonders of the natural world. Welcome to Secular Sessions, where critical thinking finds its home. Hi, friends, call me Atheist here. Today I'm joined by Dean. Let me tell you something about Dean. So, we first talked on Skeptic Haven, where Dean interviewed me about what is the religious influence in India. I hope I added something in that conversation. Dean also has a YouTube channel, Atheist Republic, in the biggest town of the world, Cape Town. So Atheist Republic, Cape Town, you need to go and check his channel out. He talks to atheists like Secular Rarity, and he's also spoken to an atheist, Zendriat. I did see that video, Dean. You don't hide from me. And that was a great interview, by the way. So I just
Yeah,
wanted to say that. So how are you doing, Dean?
I'm doing great. It's it's just another day, another dollar, I suppose. But yeah,
Yeah.
thank you very much for the opportunity. I always love meeting new atheists from all over the world. We are so many, and there's this conception that atheism is such a fringe belief. There's only a few atheists,
Mm.
and they're all sitting in dark basements, plotting to overthrow the world. But atheists are your neighbors. They are your teachers, your friends. We are all over the world, and I think with the advent of the internet, atheism has become more mainstream because a lot of people are exposed to information that they never would have come across had they not
Yeah.
been connected to the world.
Mhm.
And that is where I also found a lot of my information about atheism and community, because
Mhm.
that's the one thing, in my opinion, that religion does very well is it builds communities
Exactly.
that we as atheists don't really do, because the only thing we have in common as atheists is that we lack a belief in a god. Like
Yeah.
there's so many different areas of our lives where people differ completely, um, and that's the purpose of the organization that I am a part of, the Atheist Republic, is that we build communities. We build communities of atheists,
Yeah.
so that people have got a space where they can feel comfortable. They can feel comfortable talking about things that are atheist related, that normal people don't really have an interest in, and they generally, when you start talking about gods and God
Yeah.
belief, people give you the very strange look, like.
Yeah, I had the same experience. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
it
So
is,
that's me in a nutshell. Yeah.
yes. Thanks for the introduction, Dean. It is really funny to me, as you mentioned, that we can talk about God and all that. Although for the religious people, God is the most important thing narrating their whole life, from the birth to their death and after. For some theists, I believe, they don't want to talk about why do you believe in a God so much?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah,
if you just take that thing away, I think for them it's like taking their whole life away. But
yeah.
what we are saying is, well, actually, there's a lot to life than just being, believing in a God. Your child is not a God's gift. Your child happened because you copulated.
Mhm.
And that's how it works, right? I don't need to see my parents copulating. I knew I'm their product because they would have copulated, right? And for some reason, parents like, I recently got a new car, and then my dad was like, make sure to pray to the God. And I was like, uh,
Why?
I was like, what would happen? And then he was like, no, you gotta, you gotta pray because you gotta be humble and all that. I'm like, I am
Break a
humble.
coconut on the car and
I'm not gonna damage my car. Yeah. So, and then I asked him, gave him some reasons. I didn't tell him that I don't believe in it because, I have told him that I don't believe in a God. And he just said, you should stop joking because you joke a lot, but there are certain things you shouldn't joke about. And I'm,
yeah.
he's at a stage that there's no point in talking to him about it. And I'm like, just whatever. But what he did was he prayed for me. And his prayer must be working because I haven't been in an accident yet. So,
Well,
what's
this
your?
is the question. This is a very interesting question,
Uh-huh.
to raise in a situation like this. And you should try to find out to what percentage
Mhm.
the prayer is effective, and to what percentage your safe driving skills are effective. And and it's a very interesting question to ask. It's like, how can we tell
Mhm.
what is most effective? Is my driving skill
Mhm.
most effective, or is the prayer most effective?
Yes, that is. I should have put that question in front of him. I forgot. Next time. But
This is a funny thing that you bring up now as well with
Mhm.
being openly atheist and coming out as an atheist, and why it is important and why we should not do it in certain instances.
Mhm.
So people always, in our groups especially, we have a lot of, atheists that are closeted. They're not open about their atheism to their families.
Yeah.
They very begrudgingly go to, all these religious events and sit there when people are praying and, just go through the motions and everything, because sometimes family relationships and excuse me, family relationships and relationships that we have with religious people
Mhm.
are more important than the principle of standing your ground, because
Yes.
those relationships, sometimes atheism comes at a very, very high cost.
Yeah.
People tend to believe that you have, because ultimately you have changed. The person that they knew before
Mhm.
was a religious person, and now they are presented with a different person. So the person who has changed is you, and
Yeah.
sometimes people don't, they're not prepared for a totally different person in this dynamic that they have with you. So you
Mhm.
must just be aware that there is sometimes there's a very high cost
Yeah.
that comes with atheism and being openly atheist, and you are the only person that can decide
Mhm.
whether you are prepared to bear that cost. So
Yeah.
just be aware of that as well. But most of the people in my circles,
Mhm.
they don't approach me with with God anymore, because they usually met with a lot of questions that they don't like to answer, and also the occasional ridicule
Yeah.
and joke. Yeah.
So, how was Dean before becoming an atheist?
Oh my goodness, I was into every single. I grew up in a very religious environment. My family was very religious when I was very young.
Okay.
And then as I hit my teenage years, my mother especially she eased up. She was still religious until the day that she died, but
Uh-huh.
she lost that fervor and passion for religion. I don't
Yeah.
know what the exact thing was, but I grew up in a very, very staunch religious
Mhm.
environment. It was what we call here Dutch Reformed. So it's a brand of Calvinist
Mhm.
Christianity, and
Okay.
and uh, it was very it permeated everything. Like the government was religious before.
Mhm.
The government changed over to become more inclusive and less apartheid
Yeah.
wise.
Uh-huh.
But um, my point was, as soon as I left my mother's house,
Okay.
when I became a young adult. I just the whole idea of Christianity didn't sit very well with me, and I grew up I thought there was only one religion.
Yeah.
I knew that there were other religions, and those people were heathens, and they're going to hell, and they're going to burn and cry and scream and choke. And
You were a good Christian.
I'm sorry.
You were a good Christian.
I know, but then I left my mother's house and I went to a coastal city, Durban. And in Durban, there was, when way back, there was a lot of Indian influence, and they imported a lot of migrant workers to work the sugarcane there. So there's a very strong Indian community there. And I first encountered Hinduism, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is so cool. Look at all these different gods, and like this, and and all of a sudden the Christian background seemed so bland and dull and boring.
I see. That's one way to look at it.
And I looked at this and I was fascinated by it, and that fascination lasted me for almost it was a very short time, a very short time, a couple of months, and then all of a sudden I started saying to myself, it's not possible for both Christianity and for Hinduism to be true at the same time.
Yeah.
So what's the, and now I was sitting with this dilemma, and I was saying to myself, like, which one is true?
And which year was it, just out of curiosity?
This was a couple of decades ago. This was probably like in the 1990s.
Oh, wow.
1990s. Yeah, so it's quite a while ago. Yeah. I said to myself, not all of this can be true, but it occurred to me then that both of them can be wrong. Both of them cannot be true at the same time,
Yeah.
And then, religion became very less important to me, because I discovered that there's so many different religions, and the more religions I encountered, then I, encountered as well, because of the strong Indian influence there, I also encountered Islam as well.
Oh,
and it was way too strict for me.
Well, after you die, then it's nice, right?
But that's the thing. It's like with all these religions, it's always just wait until you die. I'm like, well, what about now?
Yeah. But life's a suffering, right? Life is a suffering. You got to go through this suffering for the heaven.
They all love to see you suffer,
Yeah.
If you really want to invent a good religion, you must invent a religion that makes people, that encourages people to prosper and to thrive, make money, have wealth.
Yeah.
That religion will be very popular, because as far as I can tell, all the religions are just about misery and poverty and suffering. But the more I encountered different religions, the more of an impact it left on me, in terms of just reflecting on the process, saying to myself, like, there's another one, and another one, and then there's another one, and then I also became, now at that time as well, when South Africa changed regime from the old apartheid regime, because I was 17 when that happened, so there was a gradual process where people started integrating, and I became as well. I became friends with some African people, and I learned about African spirituality as well.
Oh, wow.
And I said to myself, oh my goodness, there's such a big hot mess, such a big mix, a mixing pool of different religions. Maybe all the religions are wrong, but there still has to be some spiritual element to it, and then I tried to step away from this organized religion, because I said to myself, no, they're all wrong, like they can't all be right at the same time. And then I said to myself, yes, but I still believe there has to be like some essence, some power to the universe, some unseen God that people just don't understand. And that lasted for a few months, and then I just said, no.
So would you call yourself an agnostic at the moment? Like there could be a possibility of a God, or you're like strict atheist?
No. You see, the thing is, there's a very clear distinction between Gnosticism and
Mhm.
theism.
Yeah.
So I label myself as an agnostic atheist,
Mhm.
and in addition to that, I'm an anti-theist.
Okay.
So, first of all, Gnosticism deals with knowledge.
Yeah.
Do you know X, Y, and Z? And theism deals with belief.
Yeah.
Do you believe X, Y, Z? So I'm labeling myself as an agnostic atheist because
Yeah.
I don't think that anybody can know
Yeah.
anything about, like you cannot have knowledge of God, because if you have knowledge of God, you would immediately believe,
Yeah.
but so I say that the knowledge of gods are absent from humanity.
Mhm.
And in addition to that, I don't believe it because I do not have knowledge of it.
Yeah.
So I lack knowledge, I lack belief. And then in addition to that, I am anti-theist, which means I am against belief in gods, because in my personal opinion, belief in gods influences people to make very horrible decisions and to act out in very horrible ways against humanity. Because my agnostic atheism has left me in a position where I value human life.
Yeah.
Like I don't believe that there's any supervision from the sky that's directing everything, because if there is, it's doing a very horrible job.
Yeah.
But secondly, people who have that point of view, they devalue human life because they think
Yes.
we are not in charge of our destiny.
Mhm.
There is some divine master pulling the strings. We are like puppets on strings,
Yeah.
and that makes people they don't take responsibility for their lives, for their
Yeah.
environment, for
Mhm.
their actions.
Yeah.
And the thing is, these gods they've got such important work to do. They're supposed to be running the universe. But what is the ultimate goal of this? These gods are obsessed with female fashion. They are obsessed with female fashion
Yeah.
and sexual intercourse of human beings, but they've got galaxies and planets to worry about. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and that's just the females in the human world, not in the animal world. Well, humans are animals, but you know what I mean, right? Because, if you have sex before marriage, you're definitely
Yeah.
going to hell, right?
Yeah.
But I don't really understand. You've picked up a very good point here. Like this God who has a lot of work to do. Like,
Yeah.
I think I have a lot of work to do, but compared to God, my work's non-existent. And he's got to run galaxies. I don't know, whichever planet Chewbacca, for example, he has to run. But he's concentrating, he's looking at you exactly at the moment when you're having sex before marriage. I'm like, is he not good at delegating?
But also, if you think about it in the bigger scheme of things, it's something when you look at it from an outsider's perspective, you can see very clearly how religion is used as a tool to control people.
Yes.
It's used as a tool to control people's behavior,
Mhm.
the way they think, the way they vote, the way they approach other people who are not of the same group as them. So the leaders of a specific area will definitely see the value in using a religion to control people and to control the masses.
The biggest example at the moment that I can think of is the Indian Prime Minister Modi.
Yeah.
If you don't know, India is on fire at the moment. There is a state of Manipur where a bunch of Hindus have burned like 200 something churches. And in Haryana, it's the same Hindu regime is going like Hindutva or something, that they're burning out mosques and stuff. They're killing people. They're literally killing people without any consequences, like zero consequences. And they don't understand that if you go to hit someone, that other person can hit you as well. At the moment, they are in numbers. It's pure terrorism over there, But this is what the government is letting that happen. and
Yeah.
there is no control. There is policemen who are in the shot, like I've seen some videos on Twitter, and they don't do it. And
Yeah.
this is what religion does. And I can't remember who quoted it, but they were saying along the lines of, if your religion is a peaceful religion, then the extremist in your religion should be very, 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 very peaceful. But
Yeah.
that's not the case. The
Mm.
extremists in the religion are bigots, on steroids.
Mm.
They're extremely unlawful and vicious and, pure terrorists. And
Mm.
why does that happen? I'm just reading Gita, and to what I've understood, I haven't read much, but the 4 or 5 chapters that I've read, or up to 49 pages or whatever, I've understood that the human, who is Arjun, is asking the God a question: why should I fight my, relatives and all that? And God's like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll look at it after after that. And I'm like, God's a gaslighter, not a firefighter in this. And I did say in one of the sentences, like, human is saying all of this because human is a humanist, and God is just being a God because God has to maintain his body count of killing people, as it is in the
Yeah.
Bible.
That's crazy. I always ask myself, what evil will human beings not do in the name of religion? And I cannot think of anything throughout the history of mankind. The worst kind of atrocities against humanity has been done in the name of religion.
Yes.
Now you'll always get people and say, yes, but look at the atheist Russia and look at the atheist, how it's not like they do these, no atrocity was committed in the name of atheism.
Yeah.
The countries were ruled by dictators who found that religion was diluting their power, so they chose to get rid of it. But it was, at no stage there was a war where people said, oh, you believe in God, so we are going to kill you because you believe in God. You shouldn't believe in God. There was nothing like that happening.
Yeah.
It's always but I can think of hundreds of examples where you believe in a different God, let's go and kill them. You believe in a different God, let's go and wipe out everything, burn the fields, burn the houses, take the women, kill the
Yeah.
children.
Yeah, always take the woman's, because I don't know why. The God tells you not to sin by not having sex, but always take the woman as slave. For what?
Yeah. Well, we know, when the people who win the war are usually the ones who say, God told us to take the women.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, God must be a biggest pervert. I can't think of a worse word, but and if everyone is God's children, then God can be a pedophile as well. So
Well, I wonder what Mary thinks about the whole thing. Like allegedly Mary was impregnated by the Holy Spirit to bear the child of God. So I don't even understand. When you look at things, when you're in the religion, it all makes perfect sense. It's the most
yes.
wonderful, beautiful story.
Mm.
But then as soon as you step out of it and you start to look at it objectively and you say to
Yeah.
yourself, now, how did this happen? 6 days, 6 literal days,
Yeah.
sunset, dawn to sunset, dawn to sunset.
Yeah.
The entire universe, cosmos, everything was created.
Mhm.
How does that work? Like when you ask people, how does it work? Can you explain the detail to me? I mean, we live in an age where we as a species have progressed so far that we can communicate instantly with somebody on the other side of the planet.
Yeah.
When these books were written and created, I mean, even I mean, I think even the Mahabharata and
Yeah.
the Bhagavad Gita and all of those, they precede even the Christian
Yeah.
religions in
Mhm.
terms of age. And when these books were written, people were very look, they weren't illiterate, but they had a very, very limited understanding of science and how the world works.
Mm-hmm.
So they tried to explain things that they understood in very, very simple languages. And sometimes, they use allegory and storytelling and everything. And nowadays, religion has fallen behind so far that they have to start taking their narrative and they need to reinvent it. That's why you'll find people say, oh, yes, but, the Bible talks about this and that. See, we find it in the real world. We find it in the real world. So the Bible was right all along.
Yeah.
The Muslims love doing that one. Right?
Oh, Hindus love doing that one as well. And I was just thinking, why in Gita, Ramayana, Mahabharata, or any of the texts, why have nobody mentioned about Scandinavia? Why hasn't they mentioned about North Pole? Because they had the technology that they had, right? Yeah. Nowadays, technology is just hundreds of times better than what they had at that time. They didn't even have toilets, for God's sake, or and how come? And those guys have written. It's a wonderful literature. But it tells you how people thought at that time.
Yeah,
exactly. Things were exaggerated. People barely lived at like 50, so people marrying at like 12 or 13 was normal. Having kids and all that. Yeah. Nowadays, people live up until 80, 90 easily, and we just have that much technology. But I did ask you a question earlier, like which year was it when you were thinking about, atheism and, all of the things can be wrong. The reason I asked was because in 1990, there were not many technology, or you couldn't talk to many people. At the same time.
No, I mean, at first I first started questioning and having issues with religion, like I said, when I was a young adult. Look, I finished school in 1991. Mm-hmm. So it was over the next 5-6 years where I started asking these questions. It's like as soon as because I left my mother's house when I finished school at 17. I left my mother's house when I was 18. Mm-hmm. So I started living my own life. And that's when, like I said, I moved to a different city. I encountered all these different beliefs, and it was like the whole universe opened up for me.
I see.
And then it was, I didn't let go of religion. I think it was probably in 2017, 18, 19, around there, like when I decided, okay, I'm calling myself an atheist now. I don't believe it anymore. But it took me a long time to process this. People say, what's the one thing that I can say to a religious person that will turn them atheist like that? There's no such thing.
Exactly.
I cannot make you an atheist.
Yeah.
You cannot make another person an atheist because I cannot change what you believe. You are the only person that can decide, okay, I don't believe this anymore because I've been presented with these things. Mm-hmm. So religious people are very scared of atheists because they know that when people sit around atheists, all their beliefs and things are going to be questioned, and it's going to be a slow process. It's not going to happen today, but it's like planting a seed, and you just water it, give it a little bit of water. The rain is going to take care of it. The sun is going to take care of it, and it'll grow into a big tree. But they're very scared of people sowing those seeds in their fields.
Yeah. What do you think is the reason people find it hard to leave religion?
It's because it's part of your identity. We think of when I was religious, I thought of myself, okay, I am Dean, I am a human being, and I am a Christian. So it became part of my identity. Mm-hmm. And it's some people talk about it like it's like losing a family member to death.
Yeah.
Because a part of you, you have to go through a process of, it's almost like grief. It's a part of you that's, it's not as simple as like dropping a bad habit. Say, for example, I have a bad habit of scratching my head or something, and every day I scratch my head, and I have to unlearn that process. It's not as simple as that. It's part of your identity.
Yeah.
Because we label ourselves as, okay, I am at this, like I'm a man, I am this old, this is my identity, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And to let go of something like that is traumatic, and it takes a lot of work. Excuse me. I think what makes it so difficult also is that there are a lot of dynamics involved in religion. It permeates your society, it permeates your household, it permeates the way that you relate to people. So people are very reluctant to let go of such a big part of their lives. I mean, how easy would it be for you now to take your entire house where you live, to sell it and move and start in a new city? How easy will that be for you to do?
Oh, it'll be really, really tough.
It's a big step,
Yes, I've completely gotten used to it. It's got a lot of emotions attached to it, even though it's just, bricks and all that. It's got a lot of emotions attached to it. I find comfort when I come to my house.
Exactly. Religion is exactly the same.
Yeah. And what was the thing in religion that was just keeping you and not letting you go?
I think it was just I didn't know. It's ignorance. If I can put it down to one word, is ignorance. Because I've always been a very curious child. I was always interested in how things work, why things work this way. But when it came to religion, I was never given any satisfactory answers, until I started exploring it for myself. So ignorance kept me completely in a religion. As soon as I was exposed to new information, everything started happening for me. I started asking the questions, and the thing is, I was programmed from a very young age that there are certain questions that I shouldn't ask. It's not polite.
It's a sin.
It's not polite. Yeah, it's a sin you shouldn't question anything with regards to religion, because it comes from an authority that is more advanced and more powerful than what you can possibly think of. And so that came. I was always scared of asking these questions because it was imprinted on me. It's not polite to do that. You shouldn't be asking these questions because it's a form of disrespect. You're disrespecting the people in your religious circle. You're disrespecting the God that you're supposed to be, subservient to. And as soon as I started asking these questions, it's almost like before you go to jump into a big body of water, you first want to find out, is the water really cold? Because you'll put one foot in, and then find out, okay, it's not that cold. I'm sure I can bear it. And then when you jump in, the water catches you. It's cold. It's like, you're like running for your area. And it was the same kind of process for me. I just started asking small questions that were, I didn't like. The first question wasn't like, why do you believe in something that's a fairy tale? The first question was very simple. It was like, does this really happen? Does God really do this, or does God really do that? And it was going through just breaking it down into smaller little bite-sized chunks, because they're much easier to, you can't ask the big questions first time around. The big questions you must ask at the end. The first ones is like, how does it work? Can somebody really die and then wake up again?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yes.
You ask questions like that, and
it's
I don't know. I've gone completely off the topic. I've gone completely off the topic now, but
it is so interesting to listen, because you are peeling the onion slowly, and this is making religious people cry, but I'm having fun because there is so many layers of this questioning. As you're saying, you should question, because as you mentioned, like, you should just ask, so how does it work after dying and all that? And straight off my mind is like, oh, they're going to say it's because of the soul. And then you ask, how do you think soul exists? And then they're going to make some other stuff up. And then
Yeah,
you run out of answers. But the interesting thing is, it's really hard to get religious people to say, I don't know how this
yeah,
works. And I'll research on it and I'll come back to you.
yeah,
In fact, they just don't talk to you again.
yeah.
And that's what happened with the questioning though. What got you into doing YouTube, or hosting or asking people about their story?
So I was, I was very interested in how religion influences my local environment. And
Yeah,
I only grew up in a very isolated bubble of religion, which was completely white.
yeah,
There was not a single, we weren't influenced by any of the indigenous people that we had in the
mm,
country. So I ran into Atheist Republic at first, and that
yeah,
was an eye opener for me. I was so happy to find like a community of people.
mm,
I connected with that, and in that group, I've met so many different wonderful people who have been very generous with their time. They spent time talking to me, and we developed this. During those conversations, and I noticed in that circle,
yeah.
every single atheist was a white Caucasian person, and we're living in a country where that population is only approximately, I'd say, probably between 20 and 30% of the population is
I see.
Caucasian. And I said to myself, where are the African atheists?
Yeah.
Where are the atheists from Africa?
Mhm.
There has to be people in Africa
Yeah,
who are of African descent who do not believe in gods. There
yeah,
has to be. It's a
yes,
statistical possibility.
yeah,
So I set out to look for them, and I found a few. And then I said to myself, these people need to also have their story told,
yeah.
because it needs to be normalized. It's very hard to find an African person who is not either a Christian or a Muslim,
Oh,
one
wow.
of the two. It's very, very unlikely. There's I'd say a very, very small percentage, like single-digit percentage, who still have traditional spiritual beliefs. But when the colonizers came, they wiped everything out. Just
Oh, yeah.
completely Christian and Africa and Islam.
Mhm.
So I said to myself, we have to normalize disbelief,
Yeah.
firstly,
Mm.
because people hear the word atheist and they, the eyes, like when you look at an animal or a person that's dead, their eyes
Yeah.
are glazed over. So when you say the word atheist to
The
somebody in
A
South
word.
Africa, they glaze over their eyes become like this. So
Mm.
it's twofold. The first purpose was to introduce people to African atheists,
Yeah.
because the process of finding female and African atheists in this country, it led me down so many different holes. And I've spoken to people from all over the continent of Africa, from Egypt through to Nigeria, Kenya, everywhere, even people in the United States and Europe. And I've made so many different connections, and everybody has a story to tell. And by listening to people's journeys and how they deconverted, how they deconstructed, what some of the challenges were that they encountered.
Mhm.
People can relate to that because it's authentic. It's an authentic conversation that you're having with another person. It's not some, when you listen to religious people, you're talking to a wall. There's a church there.
Yeah.
There's a temple there. There's a mosque there.
Mhm.
It's these monoliths of, and they've set forth these very rigid structures of how religion should be. But when you sit down and you talk one-on-one with another person,
Mhm.
and you hear their journey and you hear people can relate to it. So many of the comments in those videos, damn, I relate. That's exactly how I felt,
Yeah.
and that's the reason why we do it. It's just to normalize disbelief. We've since then expanded a little bit. So we've recently started a news show where we give religious people the opportunity also to talk to atheists,
Nice.
because at first it was, and none of it, I have to give credit where it's due, none of these ideas are uniquely ours. Like we are mainly copying what we're seeing other atheists do. We've seen, I've seen a lot of deconversion channels, and I said, damn, we have to do something for South Africa. So it's not my idea. It's other people who, we are standing on the shoulders of these people. These people have fought that road. They've walked down that road. They've done all the hard work for us. We're just giving it our own unique flavor, to make it relevant in an African context.
Yeah, culturally
the same with
appropriate.
Yeah. The same thing with the call-in show as well. We all know the call-in shows that that are very popular, and we said we've got to do something. For people who are not necessarily so educated. Yeah, we are all dumb as a bag of rocks.
Yeah, and I'm the rock next to it.
We're all dumb as a bag of rocks, so people won't feel intimidated when they talk to us, so that's the purpose. And it's all in the spirit of building a community, of normalizing atheism, and of emboldening people, because there's nothing more empowering when you are in a marginalized community and you discover other people who are also in that marginalized community. Because it emboldens you, it empowers you to to have a voice. And that is the sole motivation behind what we do. Otherwise, it's just there's so many different communities of Facebook atheists, and
there are. Yeah, the one thing that I've noticed, and by the way, I'll repeat your channel, Atheist Republic Cape Town. So please go and subscribe, have a listen, because their stories are actually your stories as well. You wouldn't believe how many times I've watched that video and I'm like, damn, I feel the same, and I am like, how come a person on the other side of the world, and then I'm listening to that and it feels like, well, I had that doubt, and then how did they overcome that doubt? It's the reason I could think of is because we are all humans at the base level. We have the same needs. We are social, we want to build communities. And the reasons, like, you mentioned, like the religious people have these walls around them. These walls are to protect themselves, because if they plant doubt, they don't know. Like, I recently had a breakup, out of context. And then I was so scared of leaving because, I didn't know what to do after that. And that happens to probably everyone that if you start talking to. And it's the same thing with the religion. You have built that in identity. You've planned your life according to that. After I'm going to get married in these customs, go further and all that stuff. So these conversion stories, that's why I love talking to all the atheists. I have tried talking to Indian atheists and trust me, when I talk to them, I learn a lot. And I'm surprised, like I've spoken to, young adults like 18, 19, 25, and I'm thinking damn, they're really smarter than I am, because I didn't even think about it until like 27 or 28. So I'm learning a lot about it, and, and there's smart children, I wouldn't say children, smart adults, and, and it's so fascinating to know about it. But I had a question for you though. How do you deal with people, since you've started talking to religious people as well? How do you deal with people when they just, without any argument, say atheists are immoral? Like, how can you deal with such a question?
Well, this is a funny thing. When people insist that morality comes from gods, it only indicates to me that they have not traveled. They have not traveled. No. I mean, you cannot travel the world and believe that morality comes from gods, because what is considered moral in a village in Pakistan is not what is considered moral in a city in Europe, and it's not what is considered moral in a city in Africa.
Yeah.
So you would have to be completely brainwashed to think that morality comes from a source other than humans, when it is so different all over the planet. And the thing is, even between different sects of the same religion, you will have different moral principles. I can only speak from there's certain Christian denominations that nowadays they embrace homosexuality. They say no, all God's children can do whatever they are. Then on the other spectrum, there's people who say you're going to burn in hell, like Sodom and Gomorrah, and it's the most crazy thing. When people insist that if that kind of a morality comes from a god, that god is not the single source of it, because he's just giving a little bit of morality here, then he mixes it, and then gives a little bit of different morality there. So how can you say it comes from the same source? It's completely ludicrous.
Yeah, interesting. You said that. I actually never thought of it in that way. So thank you for mentioning that, because it does make sense. If you have traveled, and India's got like 28 states, and every state's cuisine is different, the language is different, the way people do things is different. And if you've traveled, you start talking to someone, and then you could find that what they think moral might not match your standards, or what you think is moral may not be their standards. So
exactly, it's completely subjective. Every single person decides what their base morality is, and then it's influenced by the society that you live in. The society around you is a big contributing factor to what you will have as your moral standards. But ultimately, it comes down to the individual person, because I am free to decide I don't adhere to this moral standard, so I am going to adopt a different moral standard. And how does that work when it comes from a single source? It doesn't work.
Exactly. And with a single source, there is a problem as well. Like, I have heard my friend father say that if you're doing bad, then it's God's will. And if you're doing good, it's God's will as well. So it's a perfect license for you to get rid of someone or beat someone up, or, more extreme measures.
And on top of that, it's unfalsifiable. if God makes you do evil and good, it's unfalsifiable, because you cannot say God is the source of morality when either way is also the same.
Yeah, it's not like I can go and ask to God, what have you said to him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many problems with religion, my friend. If you sit down as a thinking person and you just start looking at things, but not through a religious lens, just look at it through a skeptical lens, because this is the one thing that I encourage every single person, whether you be religious, whether you be atheist, whether you believe in the moon, I don't care. Just, doubt is a good thing. Be comfortable to say, I do not know. I do not know. I want to find out. Can I ask some questions?
Yes.
Do that and you'll be fine. You'll discover the truth. Just keep that as your principles that guide you, and you will discover the truth. It might take you a day. It might take you 10 years. But if you keep with those principles, the truth will find you.
Yes, and most of the time on my channel as well, I tell people, it's like, whatever shit I'm talking about, do not listen to me. Go do your own research, because I could be wrong. And if you've done that, tell me. And I'll be
Yeah.
happy to change my position as long as you provide me a logical explanation and don't tell me to watch some ridiculous video of something that they haven't even touched the topic. So no, that happens. And I have made it when I started this channel, I made a 10-part series, The Harms of Religion, one in Hindi and one in English, because I was thinking like, what are the harms of religion? And I categorized it like, it gives you false hope. It has fear in it, you know, and heaven and hell concepts and all that stuff. But these conversations are really, really important, and the conversations should keep happening. And I'm so thankful that you gave me an opportunity to talk to you, because I can only talk as much. We all need to combine our powers and then attack the thoughts of critical thinking, appeal to them. Like, I'm not saying theists should change minds. I'm just saying, just think critically how much it is impacting your life. And the straight thing I can think of is, if you stop believing in a God, you can save a lot of time and you can save a lot of money. And money is not everything, but you require money for literally everything that you do these days.
Exactly. If you think of it, I want to think about this in terms of a cost-benefit analysis, right? So if I look at the amount of money that I have given to, I mean, granted, it's a long time ago, but if you add it up, it does, at the time, it doesn't seem significant, because you're taking a small chunk of currency but you're doing it once a week.
Yeah.
And if you add it up over years, it's a considerable amount of money that you've just given, not to God, you gave it to a person.
Yeah.
You gave it to a person to do with what as they please. The same thing with time. Time is the most valuable resource that any person has. Time that you waste, you will never get it back. You'll never get it back. Yeah. So if I am thinking, okay, I'm living for X amount of time in my life, and every week I spend 2 hours at a specific religious event. I spend an hour preparing and going there, maybe half an hour coming back. And if I add that up over a month, over a year, I've spent months and years wasting that time on religion. And you can spend the time on doing much more enriching things. You can enrich your own life. You can study, you can learn, you can read, you can enrich the community around you, going and doing things for your community, cleaning up a park, helping some old people get groceries or something. And you can add value to your environment that's tangible. It's not isolating yourself from the world in some temple or mosque or church, and making the imam and the priest and the whatever richer. It's crazy, but when you are in that environment, it seems natural and it seems the right thing to do. It's only when you stand on the outside of it that you actually see, okay, look here, this is what's happening. Why didn't I see this earlier?
I hate imams, priests, pundits, all of these people with a passion, because they are the people who can't be asked getting a real job and contribute, and all of their income is essentially tax-free. And because I work, it annoys the hell out of me. I have to work, listen to my boss, and do things that I don't like. And then these people is like, because this, Mercury hasn't rolled his way in the nice way, that's why you're having troubles. And like, what the hell Mercury got to do with me? What, and these zodiac signs and stuff is just like, I think I have become very less tolerable of stupidity. And it has gotten my life really good, that I don't have to care about all of that stuff, and I live on my own, so it's fine. But I wanted to do it because I know there are some people who need to hear this stuff. To make wise decision, or at least think for themselves. Any last words that you would like to say to my audience, Dean?
I just want to, first of all, say thank you very much for inviting me, on your channel. I love speaking to atheists, meeting atheists, because we have so much in common, even though we're on different sides of the planet. When I hear you speak, I hear my own story. And it's very important that we build communities, that we connect with one another, and that we spend time exchanging ideas and information with one another, because that's how we learn and that's how we grow. I just, again, thank you so much for having me. It's really been such fun speaking to you. And
it's been my pleasure.
Yeah, great time.
Great time. And on that note, let us think about what has been told, and you guys can call us atheists.